like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Alright gang, today I want to talk about a theory that's literally like as old as the Boruto manga has pretty much been around, and it's going to be if Boruto's Jougan is actually going to be the key to actually fend off Momoshiki from taking over Boruto's body in the future. Now as of right now, we understand that Boruto is about 80% Otsutsuki, so of course the Karmiso transformation is about 80% finished. Now once the Karmiso transformation is at 100%, Momoshiki then has the option to resurrect in the body of Boruto. But of course it's still kind of confusing me because 3 years into the future, when supposedly the Karmiso is going to be 100% complete, Boruto is still Boruto. Momoshiki has still not actually taken over Boruto's body, so of course it begs the question, why hasn't Momoshiki taken over Boruto's body? And if Boruto did actually find a way to reverse the Karmiso from actually going to 100%. Now a very popular theory as to why Momoshiki didn't necessarily take over Boruto's body is because Boruto mastered the Jougan, and the Jougan can actually fend off Momoshiki taking over and resurrecting in the body of Boruto. Now me personally, I'm extremely skeptical of this theory, and I'm going to give you the main reason why I am super skeptical of this theory. The main reason is that Momoshiki gave the Karmiso to Boruto after Momoshiki found out that Boruto had the Jougan. So of course Momoshiki would have understood that he probably would have never gotten to take over Boruto's body because of the presence of the Jougan. Why would Momoshiki even give Boruto the Karmiso? Now at this particular point, I mean, I do want to kind of play devil's advocate, and it could be the possibility that Momoshiki was just extremely desperate in this particular situation. We understand that Momoshiki was in a situation where he knew that he was going to die because of that huge Rasengan that of course Naruto gave to Boruto, and if Momoshiki did not have a vessel on the side, he was going to be dead if he did not leave a Karmiso into the body of Boruto. And Boruto seemed like a very good candidate, not only because Boruto was a kid, but also because he already had the presence of Otsutsuki chakra within himself because of the presence of the Jougan. Now the next thing that I automatically think about when it comes to the Jougan is of course Toneri. Toneri hasn't necessarily been in the Boruto anime or the Boruto series for that matter in a very long time, but once Toneri was actually very prevalent, he was dropping a lot of jewels about the Jougan Boruto's dojutsu. In fact, Toneri is the first person to actually name Boruto's eye the Jougan, and because of that, of course, we have to go back to see exactly what he did say. Now I kind of went through a couple of his quotables and didn't necessarily talk about much about the Jougan in regards to Momoshiki and possibly fending off the Karmiso, but one of the things that I do want to point out is that in episode 15 he talked about how Boruto's eye will lead him to the light, which will dispel the darkness. Now I'm not necessarily completely sure exactly what that is, because of course when we talk about the Otsutsuki clan, they speak in a bunch of hieroglyphics that we spend literally years to decode, and we still have not decoded this after literally almost 4 years of Boruto content. But regardless, what we have to understand is that there is definitely going to be a situation where Boruto is going to be choosing either between light and darkness, and Boruto's Jougan is going to be what leads Boruto to the light, and not just leading Boruto to the light, but also dispelling the darkness. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I still have a problem with this overall theory, man, because I just feel like it's just such a far-fetched theory. A lot of things would have to fall perfectly in place for the reason that Boruto's Karmiso doesn't necessarily take 100% over his body is because of the Jougan. Things would have to literally fall perfectly in place. Now here is another obvious situation that I don't necessarily think is probably going to happen. I think this right here is a little bit more less likely than the Boruto Jougan theory, but of course this right here is still another theory. Boruto can use talk no jutsu. One thing that we do understand from Momoshiki is that he believes in the passage of power. He believes that the older generation should be passing their power down to the younger generation. And if Momoshiki actually does believe that Boruto is eventually going to turn into an Otsutsuki member, Momoshiki might just think that Boruto should be able to inherit Momoshiki's power. Now at this particular point, we know for sure Momoshiki is not thinking like that. Momoshiki is 100% dead set on taking over Boruto's body. Momoshiki even expressed interest in feeding Kawaki to the 10 tail so he could create a god tree for himself and then eat the chakra fruit after he resurrected into the body of Boruto. That is Momoshiki's mindset as of right now. So if this is going to be the situation, it's going to take years and years of convincing. But of course we understand that it's not going to be completely impossible because we've seen this transition from Naruto and Kurama. Of course, RIP my man's Kurama. But because of that, it still does give us a little bit of faith, and also because of Momoshiki's ideals. Again, Momoshiki had no problem with him eating his father because of course it was the passage of power, passing your powers down to the next generation. And also Momoshiki even commented on Naruto, talking about how it was sad that Naruto himself couldn't really pass his powers down throughout the next generations. In my opinion, I think that this right here is definitely a viable reason why Momoshiki doesn't necessarily take over Boruto's body in the future. But again, I think both of these theories are extreme long shots, to be honest. Now when it comes to the case of Boruto's Jougan though, overall, I talked about this before, far, I've pretty much given up on the possibility of us getting anything of substance about Boruto's Jougan mainly because we've honestly haven't necessarily gotten anything of substance in a very long time. The last time that we did get to see it is when he did fight against Urashiki, but of course in that particular fight we still didn't necessarily know anything about Boruto's Jougan. The last time that we really did get anything of actual substance was back in the first arc of the anime. Again, we have still not necessarily even heard the word Jougan uttered in the Boruto manga, and that right there in my opinion is definitely another reason why I don't necessarily think Boruto's Jougan is going to be the key to Momoshiki not actually taking over Boruto's body. Now, I think that in the future, after the time skip, or potentially even during the time skip, Boruto needs to master the Jougan. We understand that Boruto has some sort of handle on the Jougan after the time skip when he does fight against Kawaki. The development of Boruto's Jougan is definitely going to be something very important because it's probably going to give Boruto that edge to actually compete with Kawaki and actually compete with some other Otsutsuki members, on top of the fact that he does have the Karma Seal. Now, even though I did say I kind of gave up on Boruto's Jougan in the Boruto manga and even the Boruto series overall, I think one of the best ways to actually introduce Boruto's Jougan, it could definitely be in the upcoming arc in the Boruto manga when we know they're going to be fighting against cyborgs that are potentially stronger than Jougan himself. One of the things that series usually does to hype up a certain character is that they have them go against a foe that we know for 100% is extremely strong. So hypothetically, if Boruto goes up against one of these cyborgs that we know is stronger than Jougan, literally, as you guys know, Jougan sold Naruto and Sasuke. If Boruto goes up against one of these foes, activates his Jougan, also activates the Karma Seal, and now all of a sudden Boruto is rivaling these cyborgs, not even beating these cyborgs, let's just say he rivals the cyborgs and holds his own with the Jougan, we would have so much respect for Boruto's Jougan mode just that much. So I think because of that, we can't necessarily rule out Boruto actually activating the Jougan at this particular point, especially in lieu of the fact that the time skip is definitely coming up and it's definitely approaching. One of the Boruto writers actually did come out and talk about how the Boruto time skip is actually coming about, and I think if Boruto does actually activate the Jougan at this particular point, let's just say he just knows how to activate the Jougan now. If he gets a handle on actually activating the Karma Seal on command, I think during the time skip, we could definitely assume that Boruto is going to train his Jougan to where he now has some sort of functionability of the Jougan. It's not necessarily going to be as sporadic as it was before. I think this right here would probably be the perfect time. But again, in regards to Boruto fending off of Momoshiki because of the presence of the Jougan, I'm still going to say it's a very, very big long shot. It's going to be an even bigger long shot of Boruto possibly talking his way and using talk no jutsu out of Momoshiki taking over his body and resurrecting himself. If this was Naruto, I'd say that right there is an even bigger possibility. But because Boruto was a little bit more about action, I can't necessarily see that possibility either. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Do you guys think that Boruto's Jougan is going to be the key to actually fending off of Momoshiki from actually resurrecting into the body of Boruto? Let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.